us being, because I'm called one of the whistleblowers, being in danger. And severally, I can tell you, I've been asked by my own mother, who's alive and she's about 84, are you feeling safe? Don't you think you are exposing yourself? And I say, but if what I'm talking about has nothing to do with me being hateful or vindictive or subversive to the government, and yet all I'm doing is saying, this is wrong, can you please fix it? Then I think if there's a price to be paid, so be it. The reality is, sometimes some people have to do something. There are certain individuals who've been part of the brokerage arrangement between Adani and the Kenyan government, and they are also heavy and big in the medical industry. The argument and the issue that has been brought is that Chief was being brought deliberately, so that when these individuals begin to handle monies which are going to be paid by under the same system like NHIF, then they would be able to control and manage the system within that health sector. The second issue that I wanted to raise back to you is that in 2017, when the Transport Committee was chaired by Mr. Kosing, who is still in Parliament, there was this deal didn't start now. There was an arrangement of some people to try and get a PPP program so that then they could give an okay for whoever that was going to lease or buy the airport to be given that job. And people from the intelligence sector, NSIS, the military intelligence, the military, the national, everybody, not the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, because the people who were there then were really, truly professional, who were all later gotten rid of, went and made presentations and said, this is a national asset, which is the backbone of our security. The people that you have at the airport are the ones who handle our satellite and the Nini, which allows aeroplanes to land and to leave. You cannot lease it or give it away. This has to be managed by the national government because of national security concerns. That was shelved. The report is there. How did then somebody change and come up and bring that issue? I think this is a matter that is very weighty to everybody in this country. As everybody has said, this is our bequeathment from our grandparents and the people who started this country. There are certain things that are not for sale. And for me, I believe that it is something we can die for and something we should ask for. And finally, I remember Nelson discussing the issue of whistleblowing. I also want to tell all of you that it is true. I worry about my life. I'm more careful what I do, where I go, who talks to me, because sometimes people look at me in a very funny way, as if I'm doing something that is really crazy. But at the same time, I have always tried to engage whoever that gets upset with me by telling them, look, I am not asking you that you don't do the deal you're doing. Just do it within the law. Make sure you have proper procurement. Let us have 6, 7 different countries. Let us take the international best practice. Look at what has happened to Rwanda. Look at what has happened to Ethiopia. Rwanda is going to receive 40 aeroplanes by the Qataris, and they've been given $2 billion, which is a soft loan, which they'll pay over a period of 40 years. And yet, what are we doing? Did we value our airport structure? Somebody told me the valuation is 1 trillion shillings. How do you get somebody to promise you 136 billion to build a new airport, and then you take an asset which is 1 trillion and you give it to him and tell him he can do whatever he wants with it for the next 30 years? And then after he has finished raping and excuse me for using that term, and plundering that asset, then he owns 20% of equity of that asset eternally. I mean, there's so much that is who's going to be the VIP lounges where state officers and government officers are received from other countries. How do you allow another country to come and run your VIP wing at the airport? I mean, all these things are so sensitive and so important. We are not saying we don't want to have a new airport. That is a simplistic, if not stupid way of trying to explain the issues we are raising. and basically childish ways, a narcissistic way of the way you throw away everything thinking everybody's a fool. What we are saying, give us the details, the data and the information on how you're doing it, because we are stakeholders. There should have been public hearings. We should have had everybody who has an interest at that airport. That is why in other countries like Britain, for them to have one runway, basically, it took them 15 years to negotiate that transaction and do it. This is a question that even as a republic, we need to be sitting down and asking ourselves, why is it possible that we are looking for a company from India to come and do a runway in Nairobi for us, as if there are no Kenyans who know how runways are done and what can be done about it? Why is it that when you are told that the airport of Nairobi airport is going to be refurbished, that is what everybody who has been having an opportunity to work there has done, refurbished. But the only thing they do is spend a quarter of the money and eat and steal the rest of it. That's why the airport has degenerated that way. So if you want us to build a new airport, why can't you bring that and we discuss it and engage all the people who have an interest? Who told you that there would never be a Kenyan guy who can design for you a fantastic airport? So these are the issues that are important to some of us. But you see, in some of these things, if you look at the trend, yes, I had one of our friends raise the issue about these guys in South Africa, in the Guptas. I mean, if you look at the trend, you see exactly the Guptas went into the health sector, finished from there. They went into the power sector. There's a company in South Africa that is called Eskom. It went bankrupt. When the report was being done last year, Eskom had lost $9 billion US, and it broke. Every single thing that you see is happening in South Africa or has happened is repeating itself in Kenya. So there is some school or some engagement all these people have. And like somebody said, Adani is not here by accident. That is Modi's people. Those are Modi's people. And this is a deal, like I heard somebody say, and I believe to be the case. This is a deal most probably which was discussed and agreed upon long time before we even thought, or even Nelson got the documents to this story. We are going to still get some few good men and women who are going to fight this fight. Because to me, if we do not change the trajectory of our country, where we are today, where we are beginning to abuse human rights, where corruption is normalized, where when you challenge what the government is doing, you are seen to be a crackhead, somebody who doesn't even understand what you're doing. If something is not done to create deterrence, to encourage good governance, to encourage meritocracy, make sure that we spend public money with honesty, make sure that people with integrity and high credibility are given positions of public office, then for me, we don't have a country. I'm willing to say I'm ready to give up. But my only hope is that in a way, Kenya has changed. In a way, people are talking about the airport. In a way, people have talked about the issues that the Gen Zs have been talking about. In a way, people are talking about this thing they are calling university funding, which doesn't even have a head or a tail, where you are punishing children from poor families who are normally bright and clever. And we are creating a system whereby you are beginning to create 10,000 multimillionaires and billionaires and 48 million, 0.5 something are people who are going to keep walking in the streets wondering why the gods were against them. So I want to say that even with all the issues that are happening, even with the disappointment, even us being, because I'm called one of the whistleblowers, being in danger, and severally, I can tell you, I've been asked by my own mother, who's alive and she's about 84, are you feeling safe? Don't you think you are exposing yourself? And I say, but if what I'm talking about has nothing to do with me being hateful or vindictive or subversive to the government, and yet all I'm doing is saying, this is wrong, can you please fix it? Then I think if there's a price to be paid, so be it. The reality is, sometimes some people have to do some things. Mahatma Gandhi, when he started the movement in India, who knew who he was? Look at Martin Luther King. Look at Karl Marx. I mean, people have stood up for issues historically to try and change humanity. And I believe that if that is the only thing we can do, then for me, that would be a good team that I would want to be in.